were working out some contradictions with the AV. That's all worked out now. I want to welcome you so much to this, the second stop of the Days of Reparations to African People speaking tour and campaign. Started off in Oakland on October 2nd, Oakland, California. Now here we are in Louisville, Kentucky. So welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the Days of Reparations to African People in Louisville. And my name is Virginia, and I'll be your MC for tonight. And I'm just going to start off our program. We want to get some energy going in this room. We want to start off with a little chant. So this chant is Unity Through Reparations. I hope that you will be open to joining in with me as we say this. So when I say unity through, you say reparations. Okay, are we ready? Unity through. Reparations. Unity through. Reparations. All right, thank you. And our next chant of the night, when I say hands off, you say Uhuru, and we'll talk more about what that means later also. So I'll say hands off, and then you say Uhuru, and then I'll say hands off again, and you say Africa, because we're saying hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. So I say hands off, hands off. Uhuru, thank you. I just want to give a warm welcome to everyone for being here tonight and for patiently sitting through while we solved our contradictions with our sound, our audio. And I'm so excited to be here with you on the second stop of the Days of Reparations to African People Speaking Tour. I first joined this movement back in 2015. Currently, I'm the chair of social media for the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, but I've been involved in a variety of roles, as I have so many of us here tonight. And, you know, the Day of Reparations is a campaign. This is really designed to build unity from the white community with a movement of reparations as a revolutionary demand of the African People's Socialist Party. And the Day of Reparations to African People, which is a 5-city tour, and it is also featuring members of the Uhuru 3. And it's really a rallying cry for unity with the Hands Off Uhuru movement, the counteroffensive, which was put in place the day after the FBI attacks on July 29th, 2022. And it's a call to white people to join in solidarity with this growing movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and you know, and under the leadership of African and colonized peoples of the world. And we want to demand that, you know, hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela, hands off Uhuru. And so the Days of Reparations to African People is designed also to promote the recent book by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, which is called The Verdict is In, Reparations Now. And you can find more information about that book at theburningspear.store. And we always want to start off our events by acknowledging that we are on the stolen land of the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Iroquois, and Osage people. And it's our understanding that the theft of this indigenous, you know, and the genocide of the indigenous people of these lands with the theft of African people and the massive, you know, enslavement of African people are the two pillars of what built US and European, this system that continues to dominate the world. And as Chairman Omali Yeshitela has said, imperialism cannot survive a successful reparations struggle. So I just want to quickly start by saluting our leadership, the Uhuru 3. So yes, we salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He is the leader of the African People's Socialist Party. He created and founded the Uhuru movement, and his decades of work have helped to build, you know, his decades of work toward building a world free of colonialism has made the word reparations a household word today. And we want to just say thank you, Chairman, for your leadership, your steadfast leadership and brilliant theory of African internationalism that doesn't just explain the world, but it helps to change the world. And I want to also salute Deputy Chair Onizime Yeshitela as part of our leadership. Deputy Chair Onizime leads the economic work of the party and is over the economic institutions and Black Star Industries. It's incredible work that she does because it is building anti-colonial economic institutions of, by, and for the revolutionary Black working class. And it's just amazing. So we want to really salute our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. And I want to also salute Chairwoman Penny Hess of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Chairwoman Penny unexpectedly could not be here tonight, recovering from some illness, but we want to really thank Chairwoman Penny also for uniting, for being the first white person to unite 47 years ago, to unite with the call for reparations from the African People's Socialist Party. And Chairwoman Penny first met the Uhuru movement right here in Louisville, at the chairman of the party here. So we want to say a big salute to the African People's Solidarity Committee Chair Penny Hess, also one of the Uhuru three indicted by the FBI, along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And we want to also salute our leadership in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, our chair, Jesse Neville, also one of the Uhuru three, indicted by the FBI. And Jesse's just, we just want to really salute, because the bravery in facing, these attacks against the movement has inspired more and more white people to join in unity and material solidarity with reparations. And we just really appreciate our leadership and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, APSC Chairwoman Penny Hess, and USM Chair Jesse Nevel. Thank you so much. And I would like to also salute the Southern Regional Representative of the African People's Socialist Party, Kanji, and the Chair of the Hands Off Uhuru Movement, Chair Emilisi Odom. And for those who do not yet know, Uhuru is a Swahili word that means freedom. And we have been asked by our leadership to use this word because the freedom of African people should be on our minds 24/7, all the time. And so in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, we understand that we can decide not to continue this legacy of the slave master for one more generation. As the chairman has said before, that the legacy of slavery is both our legacies. White people have inherited the social wealth from slavery, and African people have inherited the social poverty from slavery. So the revolutionary African working class is determined to change their legacy. And so the question for us white people is, what will our legacy be? The answer can be unity through reparations, which is our slogan in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, given to his five, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And just some housekeeping a little bit, we want to silence our cell phones. And I want to say, no recordings, and the exits are this way and then out toward the left. The bathrooms are this way and then through the social hall and to the right. They're on your right and through the social hall. And so, yeah, I really appreciate everyone being here. And now I would like to point out that this event also is to say, drop the charges against the Uhuru three. Uhuru, drop the charges. Drop the charges. And now we will watch a brief video about that. You're going to see the FBI attacks that occurred last July of 2022. Here we go.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
Yeah, breach, what do you need?
They want.
I don't know.
I told Ben that money. Don't take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru, we see now that horrible colonial attack on the African People's Socialist Party that occurred last July 29th of 2022. And so that has what has sort of given birth to the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition now. And so we're going to find out more about that. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce our chair, Jesse Nevel, to speak with us a little bit. Jesse also could not be here in person, but he will be joining us virtually. And before I do that, I just had to quickly, I want to thank our comrades, our friends from the African People's Socialist Party who have come from Lexington to be here with us today. Thank you, Lauren and friends, for being here. The African People's Socialist Party in Lexington, Kentucky, Uhuru, thank you. Okay, and so, yeah, you've seen from the video, you see what the party is up against, what this movement is up against. And now I would like to once again salute the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, Jesse Nevel, and have him speak to us now. And Jesse has been the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement for many years and has been involved even before that with the movement. And he's just a wonderful example of unity with Black power and African liberation. I want to salute our chair, Jesse Nevel. Uhuru, Jesse.
Uhuru, Virginia. Can you all hear me in the room there? I'll wait for a sign.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. Well, Uhuru to you, Comrade Virginia, and to everybody there in Louisville, Kentucky for this historic Day of Reparations to African People event. Salute to the comrades from the African People's Socialist Party in Lexington who came in for the event, to Lauren and James and Len who drove up from St. Louis, and to all of you who came out for the first time to experience this incredibly important event that we are holding tonight. My name is Jesse Nevel. As Virginia mentioned, I have the honor to be the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And I just want to start off by saying that I'm very sorry I could not be there in person, as well as Chairwoman Penny Hess, who sends her revolutionary warm regards to all of you. We've both been a bit under the weather, and unfortunately we're not able to come in person, but we certainly intend to be back there as soon as we possibly can. And just really want to appreciate, again, Comrade Virginia Wilson, who's been holding it down in Louisville, Kentucky for a long time now, and who did a lot of great work to pull together this event. I want to thank the church that is allowing us to use your space to have this discussion tonight. And again, just to welcome all of you to this Day of Reparations to African People. And as some of you may know, the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, actually has a long history in Louisville, Kentucky. Even before the official founding of the African People's Socialist Party in 1972, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who at the time was known as Joseph Waller, was the leader of an African Black Power revolutionary organization called the Junta of Militant Organizations, JOMO, which was very active throughout the South, including Florida and Kentucky. The African People's Socialist Party historically had a very strong presence there. And Chairwoman Penny Hess, the person who was present at the founding of the African People's Solidarity Committee and who is the chair today and has been for the last 47 years from the founding of APSC, is from Louisville, Kentucky. She first heard about the Uhuru movement when Chairman Omali Yeshitela came to speak there in 1976. He announced that not long after, there would be a conference in St. Petersburg, Florida, to form the Solidarity Committee of white people under the African People's Socialist Party's leadership. And Penny Hess was one of the white people who traveled from Louisville to Florida for that founding conference. And she has been here ever since doing the work of white solidarity with Black Power. So it's great to be back in many ways, a homecoming, to be in Louisville with this day of reparations. And I want to begin, as always, by saluting our leadership in the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela. These are the leaders of the International African Revolution. And Chairman Omali Yeshitela has devoted more than 60 years of his life since he was a young man in the 1960s. He has fought every single day and made every possible sacrifice to make African people liberated in his lifetime, to make the vision of a free and self-determining African people a reality in his lifetime. And Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela has done the work to take the ideas and the theory of the Uhuru movement, of African internationalism, of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and translate them into concrete, practical programs of political and economic power in the hands of the Black working class. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. This event is part of a campaign to raise reparations for Black Star Industries, which Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela leads throughout the world. So I want to profoundly and humbly salute both of these incredible leaders and recognize and acknowledge the fact that as a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, everything that I understand as a white person, as a colonizer, settler, comes from the experience that I've been able to have working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and studying and internalizing the political philosophy of African internationalism, which was developed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela over the past more than 50 years, that is the worldview of the African working class, enabling us as the white population to see the world through the eyes of the oppressed, to see the world through the eyes of the colonized, which is another way of saying to see the world as it really is. And I want to start by saying that this is the second day of reparations event. The first one was held in Oakland. The next one will be in St. Louis, Missouri, with the March for Reparations. And there will be an event in Tacoma, Washington. And finally, there will be an event in St. Petersburg, Florida. And all of these events are designed to do the following three things. So here are the three goals we have with this event tonight. One, we want to win you. Yes, those of you who are sitting in the church right now listening to this presentation, those of you who are watching online, we want to recruit you to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and work to build our branch in Louisville. Reparations on the ground in Louisville, Kentucky. That is our number one goal. Number two, we want to win you to contribute reparations in the form of material support and solidarity to the work of Black Star Industries. And we're going to hear a lot about that before the night is over. And last but not least, my goal is to recruit you to do whatever you can do to come to Washington, D.C. next month on November 4th and join the reparations contingent at the Black People's March on the White House that is being led by the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations to demand that the United States government drop the charges against Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement. And we also will talk more about that before the night is over. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement, as Virginia explained, is the organization of white people working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party with an assignment, with a strategic assignment from the African Revolution to go back into our white communities, to win our friends, our family, our coworkers, our neighbors, our classmates, and even complete strangers, to stand in solidarity with the African liberation movement inside the US and around the world. Our slogan is white solidarity with Black power and unity through reparations. Uhuru Solidarity is the mass organization of the African People's Solidarity Committee, which was created by Chairman Omali Yeshitela 47 years ago in 1976, in the years following the military destruction by the United States government of the heroic Black Revolution of the 60s. There was a powerful movement of African people, and the Uhuru movement does identify all Black people worldwide as Africans who have a connection and national identity to Africa and to the African nation. That there was a movement in the 1960s that was crushed. It was a movement for self-determination for the Black community. It did not go out of style. It was crushed by the United States government. The leaders were assassinated, the organizations were destroyed, the ideas were assaulted, and the members were killed or forced into exile or imprisoned. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, so many others who were imprisoned or killed, Assata Shakur, by this system, by this government. And it was in the aftermath of the destruction and the defeat of the Black Revolution, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela has summed it up, that in 1972, Chairman Omali Yeshitela created the African People's Socialist Party with the explicit mission to rebuild and complete the Black Revolution of the 60s and to solve all of the problems that the revolutionary movement had not been able to solve in the 1960s because it was under assault, because it came under siege. One of the problems that Chairman Omali Yeshitela identified as a problem which needed to be addressed and resolved in order for the movement to be able to rebuild and move forward and learn from the contradictions of the past in order to achieve victory this time around, was the problem of white people. What is the correct and principled relationship from white people with the Black working class struggle against this system, against oppression? And one of the things that Chairman Omali Yeshitela has stated is that the condition faced by African people in this country and around the world is colonialism. And before I go any further, I do want to make a statement very briefly here, and we can talk about this more later on as well. I want to acknowledge that as we have this discussion, the United States government is backing the colonial settler regime of Israel, the colonial settler state of Israel, which is engaged in a barbaric and genocidal war against the Palestinian people. Thousands of Palestinian people, including children, are being slaughtered by Israeli airstrikes as we speak. And this is after the incredible and heroic resistance by the Palestinian people that began on this past Saturday, that has shaken the whole world and inspired all of the world's colonized and oppressed peoples who are fighting for liberation and self-determination. And I do want to say that we, as the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, express our deepest solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people. And I want to mention that here because it is becoming widely understood again, thanks to the leadership and the influence of the Uhuru movement and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, that the struggle of the Palestinian people is a struggle against colonialism. And the struggle of African people in this country and around the world, the struggle of the indigenous people on whose land we sit, on whose stolen and occupied land we sit right now, the struggle of the Mexican people, who are also indigenous people, whose land was taken from them at gunpoint by white people, by settlers, who drew a false colonial illegitimate border and then labeled the Mexican people as illegal immigrants for coming across a border that we put there to come onto their own land. That this is colonialism that we're looking at. That's why this organization was created. When you look at the world, when you see the two realities, the two Americas, the America of white wealth and prosperity and security and opportunity at the expense of the African reality, the indigenous reality of violence and suffering and starvation, famine, droughts, all of these conditions that as white people, we are supposed to accept as natural and normal. But it is not natural and it is not normal. It is the consequence of a social system. And Chairman Omali Yeshitela says this country, the United States of America, would it even exist if not for the enslavement of African people and the genocide of the indigenous people of this land? No, there would not be an America. It is the product of a social system, and that system has a name. Now, there are white organizations who say that that system is called racism, who say that what we need to do as white people is unlearn our racism and take workshops to learn how to eradicate attitudes from our brains that prejudice us or somehow make us have unfavorable attitudes towards African and other non-white people. Chairman Omali Yeshitela says the problem is not racism, the ideas in the minds of white people, that racism is the ideology that white people created to justify colonialism. Colonialism is a system, a material, social, economic, political system of domination of a whole people by a colonial foreign state power for the benefit of the oppressor, settler, colonizer nation population. And colonialism, as the chairman says, is not a policy. It's not something that the United States or France or Israel do in this place or at that time. It is not a blot on the soul of America or a stain on the soul of America, as even Joe Biden recently said. No, it is the soul of America. It is the essence of the entire social system. And what the chairman says is, more scientifically, it is the mode of production. From St. Louis to Gaza, you're looking at one mode of production, one system, one world economy that was stitched together through the bloodshed and suffering and oppression of African and colonized peoples. It is a mode of production in which everything that is produced in this world economy, all goods and services, all food, clothes, and shelter we have access to as white people are produced through the theft of resources, the exploitation of labor, the domination of human beings, of Africans and oppressed human beings inside this country and around the world. There's a dialectical relationship between white wealth and the imposed impoverishment of African and indigenous and oppressed peoples. African people, as the chairman says, for 600 years have been forced to produce and reproduce life, not for themselves, but for us white people. And that is the colonial reality, the colonial mode of production that African and oppressed peoples around the world are fighting like hell, including in the Gaza Strip today, to rid from the face of the planet Earth. The African People's Socialist Party is serious about winning liberation for Africans in the US and around the world. And they call on us white people to look honestly at our relationship to the history of this country, to the fact that we have not been innocent bystanders in the history of violence carried out by this social system against African people, that before there was the police, before there was the military, there was everyday working class white people who took it upon ourselves to lynch African people by the thousands, to slaughter and burn African human beings alive, to tear African babies from the wombs of African mothers and stomp on them until they died. This is the history of white people that we have to look at, that no matter what we might have faced at the hands of the US ruling class, we never turned against our bosses. We never turned against the capitalists. We turned against Africans. We turned against indigenous people, and we did everything we had to do to terrorize them in order to step up on their scarred and tortured backs to make our way up onto the pedestal of the colonial domination of African people. And that's why reparations are owed to African people. This government owes reparations. The corporations, the banks, the entire financial infrastructure of this country is drenched in the blood of African people. And yes, we white people owe reparations to African people. It is this movement, and it is the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela that has worked to make reparations a household word, building power and influence and winning this as a revolutionary demand. That reparations is not charity. Reparations is not a favor. Reparations is not a payout. Reparations is the repairing of the damage, the return of all of the stolen wealth back into the hands of the African Revolution that is fighting to liberate everything that belongs to them. Everything, all of it, the oil, the gold, the diamonds, the labor, the human beings, even the knowledge and the culture and the science and art and genius that has been systematically looted and ripped off from African people must be returned to the hands of African people who are fighting to be free. And as Virginia quoted in her opening statement, at the end of the day, colonialism cannot survive a successful struggle for reparations. And that is why reparations is a revolutionary demand, as the chairman says, is a function of the revolution. And therefore, when you as a white person join this movement and take up our profound assignment to go back into the white community and win other white people like ourselves to say, yes, we owe reparations. Yes, we will fight for reparations to African people. And yes, we will demand that our government pay reparations to African people. You yourself become a function of the revolution. You yourself become a function of a strategy of the revolutionary struggle of African people. And that is why this movement has come under attack. The United States government claims that they have targeted Chairman Omali Yeshitela because they believe he is a Russian agent, but they do not believe he is a Russian agent. First of all, the idea that this revolutionary leader who's been fighting for Black freedom for more than 60 years would require somebody in Russia to instruct him to know that African people need freedom and self-determination is absurd and racist even. But beyond that, they know that nobody pulls the strings behind the Uhuru movement other than the African working class. And that is what they are really afraid of. They are afraid of African agency, not Russian agents. They're afraid of Africans being agents of their own destiny. That is what Chairman Omali Yeshitela represents. Just like Marcus Garvey represented that, and the FBI went after him. Just like the Black Panther Party and Malcolm X represented that, and the FBI went after him. And that is why they're going after Chairman Omali Yeshitela today. And not only that, they have indicted and raided and attacked the Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement for fighting for African people to have self-determination. They have also attacked the Solidarity movement. They raided the Uhuru Solidarity Center. They indicted Chairwoman Penny Hess and myself because the party has extended the struggle for Black power into the white population, breaking the isolation of the African liberation movement, which is something that the US government was able to do in the 1960s. They could isolate the Black movement. They could kill Black revolutionary leaders in pre-dawn raids, and the white community could look the other way. But now when they went and raided the Uhuru movement in the Black community, they had to also go and raid the Uhuru movement in the white community. And they thought that by breaking down the doors of the Uhuru Solidarity Center, they would scare you, they would intimidate you, they would silence you, white people, to not be here, to not take this stand, to not want to unite with African people who are fighting to just put an end to the violence from the police, the mass imprisonment, and all of the other forms of genocide meted out against African people every single day. They don't want you to be here. They want us to be an active part of the lynch mob or an accomplice through silence. And I will close by saying, many people have heard of the African teenage young man, Emmett Till, who was brutally lynched and murdered by white people in 1955. And the white woman who instigated the murder of Emmett Till was a woman named Carolyn Bryant. And earlier this year, the Biden administration's Department of Justice closed an investigation into Carolyn Bryant and decided that there was no basis from which to press charges against her. So she died in her bed in her 90s, never facing any indictment for having instigated one of the most brutal and vile lynchings of an African child. And no white person in the history of this country was ever indicted or arrested for all of the thousands of lynchings that we carried out against African people. But now you have, for the first time in history, white people working under the leadership of the African Revolution, and Chairwoman Penny Hess, not Carolyn Bryant, but Chairwoman Penny Hess, the first white woman to work under the leadership of the Black Revolution, gets indicted by the United States government. But your presence here today is proof that they have failed, that we will continue to build this movement to defend African people's right to fight for their freedom and to defend our right as white people to stand in solidarity with Black liberation, to fight for reparations to African people, to see that our deepest interests as human beings is in unity and solidarity with the African and oppressed peoples of the world, that we can break free from the pessimism, the cynicism, the suicidal depression and drug abuse and alcoholism that is rampant in the white community as we attempt to escape from the reality of a grim future of a dying system. That future does not have to be our future. The future of this colonial system does not have to be our future. Our future can be in solidarity with the liberation and independence and self-determination of African and oppressed peoples everywhere. We have a role to play. We have a job to do. We have an assignment. That assignment is called unity through reparations to African people. We can be a part of building a world where no one suffers so that another can prosper. So I want to thank you all. I want to end by saying, hands off Chairman Omali Yeshitela, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, and victory to the Palestinian people, victory to the African Revolution, unity through reparations. Uhuru.
Thank you so much for that, Chair Jesse. Really appreciate that. Very inspiring and passionate. And now I would like to introduce a video we're going to watch of African People's Solidarity Committee Chair Penny Hess, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, but she is here in spirit. So we're going to watch a presentation from an event called 1 Year Later. And this was held on July 29th of 2023, 1 year later after the FBI raids on the Uhuru movement, after the FBI attacks. So yeah, we will go ahead and take a look at that video now.
As always, I have to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Yeshitela, and I want to say that there is really nothing that I would understand about this question, the question of reparations, the question of genocide, or anything about the world and how it got to be the way it is without the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the understanding of the colonial mode of production and African internationalism. So I thank you so much, Chairman, for that. It is something that is very powerful and liberating in the sense for the colonizer to understand this and what we can do. And I also want to say that two of the overt acts that Comrade Jesse talked about that are listed in the indictment against the chairman, against the Uhuru 3, are the reparations tour they talk about and the genocide petition. And just to say that reparations tours, we have been doing those for about 50 years, 45, at least since the 1980s. We have done reparations tours every year. We're getting ready to do that again. We have the days of reparations to African people. And, you know, and just we can look at our earliest photographs of the March Against Genocide and see, it was called the March Against Genocide that APSC and the Solidarity Movement carried out every year. Now it's called the March for Reparations, but we had banners and posters against the genocide of African people. And so I want to say, I wrote my thoughts here because I really wanted to put this down, because I think that the existence of the African People's Solidarity Committee under the leadership of the African Liberation Party of the African working class, this is APSC, and our mass organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, are the only organizations, or I should say organization, created by an African Revolutionary Party, formed strategically and specifically to deploy white people, not as charity, not as a favor, but to go in behind enemy lines into the colonizer population to win other white people and to raise and fight for reparations. And that is what we do. That is who we are. There is no other organization of white people that is created for reparations, to win it in theory and practice. I want to salute, there are a few others who have raised it. Comrade Ida Hakeem, who works with Nation of Islam, has written many books on reparations. Really salute her for being out there. I have met her. And a few, maybe a few others, I don't know. But the question is, the central question in the world, the primary contradiction, is the struggle against colonialism upon which the system was built. And there's no other long-lasting organization under the leadership and direction of an African working class party. There's not another African working class party than the African People's Socialist Party that is openly fighting to unite African people everywhere for the liberation and unification of Africa. And that we have, we have a long-term practice as APSC that unites with the discipline and the urgency that the African People's Socialist Party has brought to this question. And what APSC, African People's Solidarity Committee, and Uhuru Solidarity Movement do is actually raise resources for the programs and campaigns of the party, for the Black Power institutions, the Black Power blueprint, and more, every front of the party in terms of actual programs, but also in terms of campaigns that are needed at various times. And this is what we have done since our founding in 1976. The very first work assigned by the party to APSC was to raise resources for the work to free Desi Woods, an African woman who was in prison for 22 years for killing a white man that tried to rape her and a friend at gunpoint. She got his gun and shot him and killed him. And this was at a time when the white women's movement was attempting to say that this was a woman's right to defend herself, the self-defense, but the party raised the struggle to free Desi Woods as a question of colonial violence against the entire African people. And it was a powerful campaign that APSC took on under the leadership of the party and the National Committee to free Desi Woods. There was also, we were called on to raise resources for the African National Prison Organization and the African National Reparations Organization. These are some of the very earliest things that we took on. And it meant that we had to find the ways, not just to talk about this, but to raise resources, to win white people, to understand the colonial mode of production and the responsibility of acknowledging what white people have done. And that's why we have the book, Overturning the Culture of Violence. The atrocities that white people committed and still commit today to African people and indigenous people are by and large committed and have been historically by everyday white working people, not the government. So this is why the chairman, calls it the white people's state. It has been the white people's state. And I think Comrade Lisa has pointed out, you know, that people like Carolyn Bryant, who instigated the murder, the slaughter of Emmett Till, they get off. But if you fight for reparations, you get indicted by this, you know, under the leadership of the African Liberation Movement. The thing that we have to say and show as part of raising reparations in reality is we have to show white people what colonialism means, this dialectic of the colonizer and the colonized, and how white people in the US, you know, in Africa, wherever we have gone around the world to, as part of the colonial domination of Africa and colonized peoples, that, and in particular in the US, the way that white people could burn a human being publicly, and or cut a baby out of an African woman's stomach and then go home and kiss their own children good night and go to church the next day. And say that this is the highest civilization on the planet Earth. So I just wanted to say that is the basis, that is what we take out to the white community. But there is, we have always cited the Genocide Convention and showed how every listed manifestation of genocide that President Masamela just read is experienced by the African population every single day, that there was no word for genocide until white people killed other white people in Europe, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela has pointed out, when white people were slaughtering Africans in Congo by 20 million, who knows how many, cutting off their hands, cutting off their heads, putting them on fence posts in Congo. And look what happened look what the white people did in Kenya. Look what white people did in Namibia. All of this. There was no word for genocide. White people just did that. And that was the right of white people. There was no law against it, no indictments. So I just want to say that one of the first things that we did was build the Walk Against Genocide in about 1980, which then became the March Against Genocide. And now the March for Reparations. We went door to door in Berkeley and Oakland and Chicago and Philadelphia. We started baking chocolate chip cookies, which we sold by the thousands at Grateful Dead concerts. I don't know how many people in here even know what a Grateful Dead concert is. We started baking pies at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and very popular still in the Bay Area and Florida in particular. We held booths at San Francisco street fairs with big banners saying reparations to African people, stop the US war on the Black community, and the 3 strikes you're out. And pretty soon we had white people waiting in lines to get this, to support this. And so, yeah, so we talked about material solidarity. And after the first tribunal on reparations to African people in 1982, we understood that material solidarity, reparations, this is the same thing. And this became our mantra. This is what we put out. So I just want to say that, and I say that the fighting for reparations to African people is incredibly the positive stand. It is a liberating stand for white people. It explains who we are in the world, how we can rectify and regain a principled relationship to African people and the people on the planet Earth, not as the colonizer, not sitting on their backs at the expense of African people, but under their leadership. This is what is going to solve the problems of the entire planet, is when African people have power, when indigenous people have their land back in power. And this will be the future for white people, for all peoples on this planet Earth. So I just wanted to say that. And for any white people who are watching, we're getting ready for our Days of Reparations. Again, this year, our tour and our campaign, and you can go to uhurusolidarity.org and sign up for that, be part of the stand of reparations to African people. So unity through reparations. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. I want to salute that. Excuse me. I want to salute that speech from Chairwoman Penny Hess of the African People's Solidarity Committee. I thought that was very powerful. And next, and would like to present to you Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We're going to hear part of his talk at the Oakland Days of Reparations. So we've heard from the other two Uhuru 3, who are members of the Solidarity movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And now we're about to hear from our chairman, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has led the African People's Socialist Party since its founding in 1972. And again, this is from the Oakland Days of Reparations earlier this month. And all I can say is, this is fire. This is incredible. And I think you're really going to enjoy this. And so now we will, hear from our chairman, Uhuru.
We're anti-colonialists to the bone. And this has been a fundamental struggle that we've been involved in for many, many, many years. And one of the strategical components of our work is the creation of what we call dual and contending power. These are anti-colonial projects. These are projects designed to negate the influence of colonialism. And colonialism is simply total rule by foreign and aliens of a people. And it's what constitutes this entity that we live on now, that's named for a white man, right? They call America, right? The indigenous people who nobody even talks about usually unless they're in the room, right? So colonialism is a fundamental contradiction. And we see it as more than just a policy. We see it as something that at least since for the last 600 years, when Portugal set out and initiated this process of selling Black people and creating the plantation system off the island, Madeira Islands there of Africa, created the process that brought sugar in abundance to Europe, that changed Europe. So that now what is now called Europe didn't exist at the moment. But now provided energy that enhanced the ability for people to work and things like that. And so it became plentiful. And this plantation system was something that was spread throughout the world. It was a policy initially. Portugal initiated this as a policy. This is a good get rich quick scheme, because Portugal, if you look at where Portugal is on the map, you see it's almost a non-entity. It's just there. It's like an appendix, right? People are trying to figure out what the hell is it for, right? And so Portugal sets off there. We've heard of people like Prince Henry the Navigator, et cetera, et cetera. Prince Henry had nothing to navigate until he initiated this project against Africa. I'm not trying to slander Prince Henry, but it's just an objective truth. And so this was a policy that caught on. And other entities in this territory that we now call Europe, where it was initially just this space of warring tribes fighting against each other, identifying themselves primarily in relationship to each other. You had Celts, you had Normans, and all these other people. That's how they identified themselves until, with the assistance of Portugal, they discovered the rest of us. And the whole world economy got organized through this process of slavery and colonialism. There was no world economy before then. I think it's really important for us to understand this, because it helps to shape our consciousness. Our understanding and interpretation of the world is based on this, how this whole world economy came about and how it functions even today. So here you have, for the first time, this world economy being constructed, and it's being constructed at the expense of Africa, and especially of indigenous peoples in what we now characterize as the Americas, which is not named for anybody who is indigenous to this territory. And tremendous amount of value came to this territory. And so now we don't see the Goths and Normans and et cetera identifying themselves primarily in relationship to each other, but to the rest of us. This is where you see the emergence of the white man. This is where you see the emergence of Europe, which was not something that was generally understood. It came together as a part of this project of colonialism. And upon this edifice, Karl Marx talked about it. He said something to the effect of that what he characterized as wage slavery, which is an interesting concept, said wage slavery in Europe has as its pedestal slavery pure and simple in what he called the New World. That's us, right? He even went so far as to talk about the internally indigenous people in the Americas into the mines, bringing up gold and silver. He talked about how the war on what was characterized as East India, the Indians, all of this came into created this process of creating wealth that Marx characterized as the primitive accumulation of capital, because they had to answer the question, where the hell does this capitalism come from? Everybody who's ever tried to open up a candy store knows that you have to have what? Startup capital. Where does it come from? He says, it looks like we are involved in this vicious trap here. Because in order for there to be capitalist production, there must be capitalist accumulation. But in order for there to be capitalist accumulation, there must be what? Capitalist production. Therefore, we must presuppose an accumulation of capital that did not originate with capitalist production, but was the starting point. He said that starting point that he characterized as primitive accumulation, right? Turning Africa into warring for the commercial hunting of black skins, etc. I just think it's really important. I just wanted to say that because the whole capitalist system, all the exploitation, all the oppression that we talk about, all the wars that we see visited upon the peoples of the world has its origin there. And it's important for us to be able to see that, right? So I wanted to say that, and I was just saluting Bakri. There's so many people in this room, old friends, comrades that we fought with, struggled with for so many years, participated in our movement, and I'm so glad to see you as well. I wanted to also salute my dear comrade, Omali Yeshitela, who's been referenced. And some people may think she's been referenced by people who are trying to suck up to me, but that's not the case. And once you meet Omali Yeshitela, you will know what I'm talking about. Because part of the dual power projects that we're talking about constitute something like 50 different economic and political entities throughout this country, and that's also being introduced to various other places in the world. And she presides over all of that. Furniture store here, and in Philadelphia, the markets that we have established. We have a market in Philadelphia has more than 100 and some odd vendors that comes there once a month. They help to feed their families, keep money circulating in the impoverished, desperately impoverished African community. So I wanted to acknowledge her and also to extend my appreciation to comrades Penny Hess, who is not here. Penny has been involved in this movement for a long time. Right? And has traveled everywhere with this movement. She's been a real cadre. Wherever it's been called for her to go, she's been there. And it's in this country, Africa, various other places around the world, Penny Hess has been there. And I really want to appreciate the young, dynamic Neville, who functions as the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Do you know one thing that means that the state has failed is in the 1960s, what they were able to do was they terrorized people, especially around the Russian communists, the Red Scare. And the Red Scare started a long time before the 1960s. In fact, the charges that we are faced with now have the origin really in 1917. 1917 is significant for, in some people's mind, for the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution. Of course, there was so many other things happening in 1917 that helped to punctuate the significance of the Bolshevik Revolution. And that was, as you know, during this time, we are talking about what was characterized as the first world imperialist war to redivide the world, wasn't it? Who were they talking about redividing? They were talking about the colonial people. These are forces who are now engaged in this war, this brutal, murderous campaign to redivide the world. In fact, one of the issues that they dealt with was, because this is where we find the advent when that war ended, the Versailles Treaty. One of the things that came about was the creation of the League of Nations, which is a precursor to the United Nations. And the League of Nations was something that was initiated by Woodrow Wilson, US president, but he wasn't able to get the Congress to support it. And so, but at this League of Nations meetings they were having, one of the things they were debating who was getting what parts of Africa. And they were particularly and specifically at one juncture talking about what they call Southwest Africa, as characterized as Namibia today. And they were talking who they were going to give it to. It's really extraordinary. That's when Garvey said, Africa, Marcus Garvey, Africa for Africans at home and abroad. And he led a movement of 11 million Black people. It was an extraordinary anti-imperialist force that barely recognized today. He's not recognized precisely because he raised up the question of the liberation of Africa. That was the single most critical question. That was the colonial question. All over the world, African people we are part of the revolution of Africa, but we are part of the revolution of the Americas as well. You can't look at the Americas without seeing Africa there, almost every way. So that was a part of the struggle. So we have this creation, this whole colonial mode of production. Well, all the production, world economy for the first time. The parasitic is defined by parasitism. Deep, profound parasitism defines this colonial mode of production. And so the parasitism, the exploitation that you see in the capitalist system has its origin there. That's where it's born. That's where it was birthed, etc. To the extent that when Karl Marx wrote Capital, you know where he got his money from, because he was poor. He was at this time, when I say he was poor, I don't mean he was born into social poverty, but Marx had no money. He was poor. Often he had no money. Where did he get his money from? Somebody will say Frederick Engels, right? From Engels, and Engels got the money from his daddy. And where did Engels' daddy get his money from? Part of his money came from textile, from cotton picked by slaves, African people, Black people like me in the Caribbean. So here we are, not even seen, not even recognized, picking the cotton that allowed for Karl Marx to write this extraordinary tome, Capital. Isn't that something? We've been here all along. We've been here. We've been here. And so I just wanted to mention those things. There's some things that Jesse, I wish they have Jesse in the courtroom. You hear him sum up, boom, 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 boom. This is what it's about. That's the case. I don't even know the case number. Jesse goes, case number, such and such a thing, right? I like that, Jesse. And that's that. And we are dealing with these insidious charges. Here, the notion that I'm a Russian agent, it ignores so much, but it makes certain assumptions too. Russian boogeyman, the Russian boogeyman. I grew up as a child, and there's somebody in this room who also had this experience, even as children, where you're taught the bomb is going to drop in, hide under the desk if the bomb comes. If the bomb comes, ain't gonna be no death. You understand what I'm saying? But this is what we're taught. Yeah, frightened. You know, they wrote movies, insidious movies that suggested the Russians and the communists were going to come and get you and go to sleep, and the communists will get you. What's the movie that they made? The movie that they made where the pods, you know, what happened if you go to sleep, body snatchers. You go to sleep. All right, you have to be attentive all the time because those communists, those body snatchers will come and grab you, and they're all like automatons, right? And you know why they call us automatons? Because we're disciplined, because we have a political line, because they can't just manipulate us and make us go here and there when they want to. because we're African internationalists, because we're revolutionaries, because we're disciplined, because we are guided by social science. And this is the thing that, so they're attacking that. Godless you are. Is that Nietzsche? So anyway, we're talking about, you know, this terror about communists and Russians. But it won't work now. There's a profound crisis that's existing in the whole world. They can't contain it with this Russia nonsense. The solidarity move, and then not just Russians, Black people. So we got the 60s, you got the Russians coming from one angle, and you got those Black people coming too, you know, et cetera. So this is enough to terrorize any normal, ordinary, red-blooded white person, American in this country, right? But it won't work this time. And it won't work for so many reasons.
Again, I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela for leading this courageous fight, not only to organize white people in unity with reparations, but just to lead the African Revolution as well, but to change the world. And that's what we're here to do tonight, is to learn about that and how we can do that. And so I want to really thank the comrades who have come all the way from St. Louis to help organize this event. And they were here when we tabled at Louisville Pride, and then a bunch of wonderful people there. I see some of those people here tonight. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Yes. And so I want to introduce you to bring us the appeal is Lauren and also Len from St. Louis. Len is our Len is the chair of our membership committee. And I just really want to salute these two comrades for coming all the way here, helping organize this event.
Thank you, Virginia. All right. Hi, everybody in the room. It's good to see some of you. And I'm assuming there's also a ton of people tuning in online, which is really exciting. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to come out tonight and be a part of this. I know it's a little bit of a smaller crowd, but this is really like history in the making. You know, every year these Days of Reparations tour happens all around the US. And this is just one stop on, you know, an entire slew of places where the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement are stopping. And so it's really significant that you're here tonight to show up and learn more about, you know, these attacks that are happening against the Black liberation movement, and to learn, you know, what your place is in all of this and how you can be a part of overturning this really parasitic social system that exists that I know that none of you in this room really want to be a part of. So I really appreciate all of you for being here. So I just want to start and just ask everybody who in this room, raise your hand. And also, if you're at home, raise your hand. Who in this room believes in reparations to African people? Raise your hands. It's a unanimous vote, everybody in the room. All right, really appreciate that. So what Lauren and I are going to do tonight is to talk to all of you here in the room and at home about how we can make reparations a reality. All right, Lauren.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, reparations means repairing the damage for 600 years of slavery, genocide, rape, murder, torture, and untold suffering. Next slide. The African People's Socialist Party calls for reparations to go toward the work of Black Star Industries, the anti-colonial foundation of the independent African working class economy. Next slide.
So, we heard about the CARICOM study that was published recently that used the methodology of the 1982 World Tribunal, which the chairman talked about a little bit. It was developed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and that concluded that the amount owed to Africans in the Caribbean is $130 trillion, and that exceeds the global GDP of the world economy, which is a lot of money. And next slide. And tonight, we are going to contribute towards our goal of raising $30,000 towards in reparations towards Black Star Industries. And every dollar that is contributed towards building the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, building the economic infrastructure of the revolutionary African anti-colonial movement. And they're taking everything back that belongs to them, everything that has been stolen, and all of it must go back into the hands of African people.
Our goal tonight is $2,000. We can do this. As a collective tonight, including online, we can make reparations a reality by contributing to Black Star Industries. Next. While we're talking, our basket passer here in the room, Jace, is going to bring you an envelope with a pledge card, and I'd like you to start thinking about what you could give towards the goal to raise $2,000 in reparations for Black Star Industries tonight. You can start by going from your phone, and online you can go to uhurusolidarity.org/pay-reparations to make your contribution, and I'm confident that we can go way past this goal.
Let's see. Well, first of all, I just want to stop really quick and just say, I just want to shout out some people that have already contributed. I want to shout out Carrie Porter, who's online right now. Carrie Porter is near the Cincinnati area. Carrie, thank you for your $50 in reparations for Uhuru. And also, let's see, we have a $100 pledge from Jesse Nevel, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. So thank you, Chair Jesse. I really appreciate you. Uhuru. And let's see. Okay, are we going to the next slide here? Okay, so we have all these amazing people who have already made reparations happen. And I also really want to give a huge salute to Holly, who contributed $1,200 in reparations. Which was amazing. Yeah. And part of that was Holly renewing her membership to USM, which we'll talk a little bit more about.
Okay. So what is Black Star Industries, or BSI? BSI is the economic engine of the African People's Socialist Party. Its tagline is building the Black power economy through collective organization. Next slide. The goal of BSI is to begin the process of building an anti-colonial economic system for African people. The mission of BSI is building economic development and commerce for and between African people worldwide. Next slide.
Right. As Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela has said, nothing will stop the Uhuru movement from building the independent African anti-colonial economy. And Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela is the president of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. Which is the nonprofit of the African People's Socialist Party, and she also heads up over 50 economic institutions around the world that are building power in the hands of the Black working class. And she also says that the July 29th, 2022 FBI attack on our movement represented an assault against our politics of anti-colonialism, against the work we've done that the people have come to know, to love, become a part of, and contribute to. Defend and support these institutions and programs. So let's really make that true tonight by raising $2,000 for Black Star Industries. We already got a head start from some of our amazing comrades. And I just want to take a moment here and just put this out there and see who here in the room or online can just go ahead and donate $2,000 in reparations right now. You just shout it out. or let us know online. And we'll come back to that. So, you know, just as white people, we have access to an enormous amount of wealth, even whether it's, you know, money or social wealth, which leads to being able to have money. You know, we have access to resources, and we can turn over these resources tonight. And now, you know, we've been talking about raising reparations, and now we want to take a few minutes to show you what your reparations goes to, all the amazing programs. Next slide. So this first thing is the One Africa, One Nation markets. And for decades, as part of Black Star Industries, the Uhuru movement has coordinated these One Africa, One Nation markets. They're in Philadelphia, they're in St. Louis, Missouri, St. Petersburg, Florida, and in other places. And there are always amazing Black vendors there and fresh produce. And I know in St. Louis, you know, they work with local farmers, Black farmers, and just it's all about creating commerce and resources to circulate within the African community. Next slide.
Yes, the Black Power Blueprint. Since 2017, Black Star Industries and the African People's Education and Defense Fund have partnered to sponsor a multifaceted developmental initiative in St. Louis, Missouri called the Black Power Blueprint. The Black Power Blueprint is an anti-gentrification project that has acquired abandoned properties and developed them into community-based programs that benefit and uplift the people, such as the Uhuru House Community Center, Community Garden, the Black Community Basketball Court, murals portraying the spirit of the African community, a doula training project for African women, and an upcoming Black Women's Health Center. Next slide.
And so this is Burning Spear Media. So this is Black Star Industries home to Burning Spear Media. And this is the publishing arm of the African People's Socialist Party. And they put out the Burning Spear newspaper and all of the amazing books and pamphlets of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, along with Chairwoman Penny Hess's book, Overturning the Culture of Violence, which I really recommend everybody get a copy. And this is the exercise of freedom of speech that the US government is attempting to silence. And bringing the political theory of African internationalism to the masses of African and colonized peoples is what the Burning Spear Media does. Next slide. And I just want to take a moment and say, you know, if anybody has any donations of any amount, you know, feel free to raise your hand and call it out. $5 donation. Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Devin. $25 from Devin.
Yes, okay, great. Uhuru Foods and Pies. Uhuru Foods and Pies is a beloved institution of BSI, in particular in Oakland, California, and St. Petersburg, Florida, with roots going back over 30 years, baking, selling, and distributing pies and other foods. This is more than just a delicious pie. It's the seed of building the capacity for African community control of the means of food production and distribution. Next slide.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. And UZI, this is the economic program of INPEDM, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And this is just an amazing, you know, it's called a thread of freedom. And it's amazing clothing, custom clothing line where you can get a bunch of revolutionary apparel. And I also just want to say we got another $25 from our comrade Brendan. So that brings us to, I think, 1,490, I think 1,495 perhaps. So I think we have a little under 500 to go. Woo! Next slide.
Decolonize is the hair and body care products line created by the African National Women's Organization to fund their work advancing and protecting the interests of African women, including through their heroic campaign, Arrest CPS, to defend Black mothers and children from the colonial kidnapping agency that splits African families apart for the profit of the colonial system. Next slide.
And of course, we have the Uhuru Planet, and that's another Black Star Industry program. They sell and make amazing revolutionary apparel with African international messaging. I'm actually wearing a shirt right now that says all white people owe reparations to African people. It's an amazing website, and you can check it out at thebrewplanet.com. And this is the it's a Black Star Industry owned institution, and it is the economic development program of the African People's Solidarity Committee. Next slide. All right, and Africans around the world are uniting, and a lot of what we looked at here is in the U.S., but this work is happening worldwide. This organization is an international organization, and the goal is to unite all Africans together in an anti-colonial economy. On the continent, from the Bahamas, etc., anywhere that African people have been forcibly dispersed. And that Africa's resources can be back in the hands of African people. And when you contribute to and pay reparations to these programs, this is a stand of reparations. And this is returning stolen resources, stolen wealth. And I know personally, I don't want to be in a world and live at the expense of anybody else. And especially I don't want to live at the expense of African people. And I don't want to be in a system where African people and other colonized people are forced to suffer so that I and my other white friends, and family can have opportunity and prosperity. And I don't want to be a part of a world where I just don't want to be a part of a world that is at the expense of others. And I don't necessarily have a whole lot of money. I'm not like a wealthy person, but I do have, social wealth, and I do have access to resources that African and colonized people don't have. By supporting these programs, like in the chairman's presentation, it's building dual and contending power. Different organization that will overturn colonialism, that's building power in the hands of the African working class. And one last thing I want to say before I move on from this slide is that, this is not charity. This is not charity. And it's not a favor, and this is not a payout. This is a profound opportunity for us as white people to really take responsibility for our historic relationship to African people, and as the oppressor and, as the colonizer. Next slide. Okay. All right. Okay, so supporting, defending, and protecting these institutions is more urgent now than ever. And when you support Black Star Industries, you're taking a stand in the defense of the right of African people to exercise their democratic rights to freedom of speech, political expression, and assembly in pursuit of their liberation. And these programs represent African self-determination. And as Chairman Omali Yeshitela says, it's the highest expression of democracy. That is self-determination, the highest expression of democracy. So over $240,000 had to be raised for all these legal fees now that the US government has attacked the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru movement. And they purposely want to drain the Uhuru movement from these resources. They want to divert the funds away from all these amazing programs. And when you support these programs, or when you become a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, you're taking a stand for the right of African people to build in their own economic interests, which is really, really powerful. Next slide.
Okay, so how to donate? You can pay on the website, and you can do it right from your phone, or you can go in the room here in the back to James at the sign-in table, and he can go ahead and process your donation online. And I see James raising his hand in a pledge of $50 back there. There's a QR code on the back of your pledge card. Please fill out the pledge card, even if you donate online, so we have the information to acknowledge and be in touch with you. And you can also contribute with cash or make a check out to Uhuru, UHURU. Next slide.
Right. So, becoming a sustaining member is one of the most powerful ways that you can pay reparations. And I want to take a moment and shout out our brand new sustaining member who contributes, who just now joined, Nat from Kentucky. And Nat is now a $167 monthly sustainer. So shout out to you, Nat. And, being a monthly sustainer means, paying reparations every month. And it could be, we have a bunch of different levels. It could be anywhere from $5 a month to $167 a month, just like Nat is doing. And all of these funds go directly to supporting these institutions and these projects that are building political and economic power in the hands of the African working class. And I just really want to shout out Nate again for that. And this means that we actually surpassed our goal, and we have so far raised $3,500. Next slide.
And general membership. You can also become a general member, and that means making a once a year payment of $25. Or if you're a student, we have a $10 option for that. If you are interested in making a larger contribution, we have a program called the Reparations Legacy Project for those who have access to wealth and who want to make larger contributions. You can let us know after if you would like to set up a meeting for that. Next slide.
All right, and so with all of that, we say unity through reparations. And Black Star Industries believes that not one child shall go hungry, not one family shall be homeless, not one youth shall be without a positive future, not one elder shall be disrespected and alone, not one African shall be thrown into prison by a system that makes money from his or her incarceration. Black Star Industries stands in solidarity and unity with all oppressed peoples struggling for liberation and self-determination, including the indigenous people of the Americas, the Mexican people, the Arab, and the Palestinian people, Asians and others who are faced with the task of overturning the legacy of colonialism and oppression. Black Star Industries is working for a world in which all humanity can live as one, no one at the expense of others. Next slide.
And on November 4th, join the reparations contingent for the Black is Back Coalition's March on the White House. Sign up and learn more and read the demands at blackpeoplesmarch.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Uhuru!
Yes. Free Palestine.
Uhuru, thank you so much to everyone who donated and pledged. And I really want to salute our newest sustaining member, Nat. Uhuru, everyone. We surpassed our goal, our reparations goal. Yes, that is amazing. I really want to thank you. And one more time for the people who might be viewing on YouTube or Facebook, I just wanted to give that link out again. It's uhurusolidarity.org/pay-reparations. That's where you can go to make a contribution. If you want to become a sustaining member, you can go to uhurusolidarity.org/join. So we want you to become a member today. We want you to join this movement, the movement for the mass movement, for reparations under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. What an amazing stand of solidarity with the African Revolution and with a bright, beautiful future for humanity that is. So yeah, uhurusolidarity.org. And then you can click on the button that says pay reparations, or just go right to uhurusolidarity.org/pay-reparations. Or become a member. I would love for you to become a member. So again, I just want to really applaud that appeal. I want to thank our comments for this wonderful information they gave us about these programs, these anti-colonial programs of the party that really do overturn colonialism in the Black community. And so the reparations we raise is very important toward that goal. Yes, I just wanted to say that one more time. And also I heard over here, and I don't know if you heard it online, someone say free, free Palestine. I want to unite with that. We are in total unity with the liberation of all colonized people. So I'll say it again, and you say it back. Free, free Palestine. Yes. Hands up. Hands up. Unity through. Yes, drop the charges. And so, just briefly, we're gonna have a brief Q&A, just for a few minutes. If there's anyone in person who came to the event here, you had a question or a comment, we would love to hear that from you. And then also, I know that we have chat moderators looking out online in case anybody had a question. So we quickly want to check in and see, does anyone here today have a question for us?
I have just a quick comment.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. All right, Uhuru, sorry, I didn't realize that Nat was in the room, and I just want to shout them out and just thank you so much for becoming a standing member. Really appreciate you, and looking forward to building this movement with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Absolutely, yes, that was amazing, Nat. We really appreciate you. That is material solidarity right there with Black Power and African Reparations. Powerful. And thank you also, Devin. Another person who's here, Devin, thank you. Salute for your pledge as well. It's very much appreciated. So yeah, as I was saying, if anyone had a question, we would love to take those on right now. And I'm just going to check and make sure nobody online had a question. So bear with me just one moment. Do you have access to that one? I just don't want to leave anyone out if they ask the question. Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to double check that.
Any questions in the room?
Yeah, I did ask that. Go ahead, Matt.
So I think Jesse said the goal is to start a chapter in Louisville.
Oh, yes, we do want to start a local branch here in Louisville.
Well, yes, you want to say their question so everybody out can hear?
Yeah, so the question is, are we trying to start a local branch for the solidarity movement in Louisville? The answer is a resounding yes, yes. And the other question was, where and what other cities do you have branches? And we have members over 140 cities all over the country and even around the world and everything. But could I have our membership chair come up and answer to that a little bit better? Where we have activity, where there's an active group for Uhuru solidarity.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so we do have members in 140 cities around the US and also in Germany. But as far as like active branches, St. Louis, which is the headquarters of the Uhuru movement right now. That's one of our main active branches. St. Petersburg, Florida, Oakland, Tacoma, Washington, and am I missing? Oh, Minneapolis. Those are like the 5 cities that we have like a lot going on. But the goal is to build everywhere. We want there to be a branch here where people can go out and do outreach and get more people to really become a part of really building here and building. We want like a mass movement of white people that are in solidarity with the right for African people to be free and for all colonized people to be free. So if you have any friends that you think unite with your vision of the future, that definitely invite them along. Definitely, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. How do we go about starting that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So now ask, how do we go about starting that process? Well, here you would be able to connect with Virginia, since Virginia is the local organizer here, and she can work with you and get started in creating a branch, and what that would look like, because there's a bunch of different roles and stuff. But the first thing that you could do is sign up for an orientation, which you could do at uhurusolidarity.org/volunteer. And then once you fill out that form, there'll be like a little link that you click that you can sign up for an orientation. And that's like an hour Zoom usually, that you just learn a little bit more about the organization and about what our role is as white people in the African Revolution. And yeah, we also have like a ton, we have like a toolkit, like a branch building kit that we would share with you. And, we're a people's organization. And so we work with you hands-on to, make sure that you have all the things that you need to be successful in like building a branch. So it's like, we always work together. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for these thoughtful questions. I really appreciate it. And also want everyone to know that another way to continue building and in the process of the next steps is we would like everyone who's here to be a part of the reparations contingent at the Black is Back Coalition's March on the White House November 4th. So we want people coming from all over, and there are people who are coming all the way from the West Coast. There are people coming from the Northeast. There are people coming from all over. They're gonna get on a bus, they're gonna get on a plane, they're gonna have a caravan, whatever it takes to be there November 4th to say once and for all, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, no to the FBI war on Black liberation. We won't have that. And we are going to stand up and say, we are in material solidarity, not just solidarity, like we say, oh yeah, I'm in solidarity with you. We mean it, we show it, it's material. We make our solidarity a material reality because we pay reparations to the programs of the revolutionary African working class that is working and building right now anti-colonial institutions that will overturn colonialism. So that's what one of our next steps is we definitely want to be in that reparations contingent. And everybody listening, I want you to be in it too. The solidarity contingent, the reparations contingent for the Black is Back Coalition March on the White House. You can go to find out more, to register for the march, you can go to blackpeoplesmarch.com. So that's one thing I want to say. And also, as Len mentioned, sign up for orientation if you're hearing this, or if you're here in the room, or if you're interested in any way, go to uhurusolidarity.org/volunteer, sign up to attend an orientation, learn more and learn about how you can get involved in this organizing work as well. So those are definitely two of the first steps that I want you to do, everybody who can hear this, very important. And so as this evening does come to a close, I do want to thank everyone who came out. I want to thank our comrades from Lexington, African People Frontier Private Comrades. And thank you, Warren. Yes, thank you for being here. It's just powerful to have your presence here. Very powerful, and I really thank you. Excuse me. And I want to thank the people who came to attend in person and learned so much more about this movement and ended up uniting themselves in material solidarity and even joining the movement. So anyone is to meet that. I want to thank the solidarity comrades from St. Louis who came to help with this event on. And I want to thank Christy and the First Unitarian Church for letting us hold this event here. I want to thank everybody who's tuning in. But just to say, this was a powerful day of reparations stop on the tour at Louisville, Kentucky, Day of Reparations. And I wanted to let you know more about what's coming up. The next stop on the Days of Reparations tour is going to be powerful. We have two things coming up kind of simultaneously. So the first one is going to be the March for Reparations. This is an annual event that has been held since the days that African People's Solidarity Committee Chairwoman Penny Hess was first involved in this work under the leadership of the party 47 years ago. They used to have an annual walk against genocide, and that started on the West Coast. And so now that has sort of morphed into an annual March for Reparations. And that's what we're doing on the 21st of this month, October 21st, Saturday in St. Louis, Missouri. Woo-hoo. So we want you there. Yeah. We want you to be in the March for Reparations. And then the following day, Sunday, on the 22nd, will be their Day of Reparations Conference. Again, that's in St. Louis, STL. And I want you to go to stlouisreparations.eventbrite.com to find out more about that. Because I would love to see some people from Louisville also go to the St. Louis March for Reparations. That would be thrilling and would really be a great stand of solidarity. So simultaneously on October 21st, Saturday, October 21st in Tacoma, Washington, those comers are going to have a viewing party for their day of reparations to African people in Tacoma, Washington. So that is going to be a powerful event as well. And then lastly, the last stop on the tour of the Days of Reparations is St. Petersburg, Florida. And they call it the City of African Resistance. And that is one of the two cities that the FBI attacked when they attacked the Uhuru movement in St. Petersburg, Florida, and also in St. Louis, Missouri. And in St. Petersburg, Florida, that is where the Burning Spear newspaper offices are. That is the oldest Black Power newspaper in continuous publication. And so St. Petersburg has a long, rich, deep history of African resistance. So their day of reparations is October the 26th. Go to stpreparations.eventbrite.com to sign up and learn more about that. And also, I wanted to let you know that, okay, we talked about the November 4th March. So go to blackpeoplesmarch.com to learn more about that. And we are called on by our leadership, the African People's Socialist Party, to join in, be a part of the solidarity contingent, the reparations contingent. I want to let you know that on Sundays at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, every Sunday, there is political education available for you on Facebook and YouTube. It is called the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. And you can go to youtube.com at The Burning Spear. And for Facebook, it's facebook.com/Omali Yeshitela. So yeah, don't miss out on that political education. You can also subscribe to the Burning Spear. We have Burning Spear newspapers here for you, the print edition, here for the people in this room. But you can also subscribe to the Burning Spear yourself, or become a distributor, or you can even subscribe to the digital version as well. If you go to theburningspear.com/store, or the burningspear.store. The burningspear.store. So yeah, so I think those are all of the announcements. Again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out and for putting yourself out there and coming here tonight and being a part of this and being a part of reparations. I really salute you and I thank you so much. And so we'll end with the chants we began with, if that's okay with you guys. We're going to say, unity through
Reparations.
Hands off.
Uhuru.
Hands off.
Africa.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Thank you, everyone.